Another very interesting a topic I wanted to weigh in on is, and I mentioned it on the earlier show, but now it's getting a lot more media, is Bank of America's decision to charge $5 a month for people who use their debit cards to make purchases during that month, wants to charge them. And, of course, there's all this uproar. And the fee, of course, is being charged because the government came in and capped how much the banks can charge merchants when people use debit cards. And so since they can't charge the merchants, they've got to charge the debit holders directly. After all, the banks have to make money on these things. They're not nonprofit organizations. They're not supplying people with debit cards for free. It's a product, it's a service that they're selling, and they have to be paid one way or another. But the outrage is, crazy how politicians, they think nothing about taxing us, taking thousands and thousands of dollars away from the typical American in taxes. Yet if a bank tries to charge $5 a month, they're up in arms. But anyway, here's typical. This is, I'm going to play cut number 5. This is Senator Dick Durbin from Illinois. Listen to what he has to say. Cut 5.
Bank of America customers, vote with your feet. Get the heck out of that bank. Find yourself a bank or credit union that won't gouge you for $5 a month and still will give you a debit card that you can use every single day.
Okay, first of all, if everybody did leave Bank of America, would the government be on the hook for a lot of money? Because they bail these guys out. I mean, there's a lot of bailout money over there at Bank of America. They're having a lot of trouble as it is without the government that bailed them out now encouraging their customers to leave. I mean, if all of Bank of America's customers left, although if just the customers who are objecting to the $5 a month fee left, it probably wouldn't hurt Bank of America. They're probably losing some money on those transactions right now. Well, look, the bottom line is, a few years ago, there were no debit cards, right? And how did people spend money, right? They had to go to the bank and get cash. They could get cash out of an ATM machine with their debit card, and then they can take the cash to a merchant. They can still do that for free. Bank of America is saying if you use your ATM card, your debit card at an ATM machine to get cash, and then you take that cash to a store and spend it, there's no fee. They only want to charge you a fee if you decide not to go to the ATM machine, yet to use your debit card directly at a merchant. Well, there's a value for that convenience. Right? When people don't have to go find an ATM machine and take out cash, if they could just use the debit card at a merchant directly, that saves time. There's obviously a cost there. No, there's no, interest. When you use a credit card, the bank makes money because if you don't pay it back in time, they charge you interest. But there is no interest on a debit card. The only way that banks make money off of debit cards is in the fees that they charge for people to use them. And so they have to charge something. I mean, and here the government is making a huge deal out of a fee. It's $5 a month. It is not a big fee. And, if somebody doesn't want to pay the $5 a month, if someone thinks that $5 a month is so expensive that they can't afford it, they don't have to pay it. They can go to the ATM machine and get the cash. And presumably, if $5 a month represents that big a chunk of your budget, then probably it doesn't matter to you that you've got to spend an extra 5 or 10 minutes going to the ATM machine. But if you don't have the extra time because you're busy and because you're working, then probably $5 is worth it for the convenience of not having to go down to the ATM machine and maybe wait in line, I don't know, or get your cash. So the whole thing is ridiculous. But Bank of America obviously would not be charging this. I mean, where's the outrage? What about the airlines? The airlines are charging people to check their luggage. Why aren't congressmen jumping all over the airlines for charging money to check luggage? Or what about charging money for a meal on a plane? I mean, why are the banks so special? Why do all the politicians have to rail on the banks, jump on this bandwagon because Bank of America wants to charge $5 a month for a service that it provides that people can easily not use if they don't want? Anyway, look, I'm out of time on this segment. We got a guest coming up, so stick around. You got a lot more of the Peter Schiff Show here on SchiffRadio.com to call back. Before we brought our guest on, I started talking about this Bank of America, this outrage about the $5 fee. And, some of the interesting quotes I read, one of the congressmen had said that they were accusing Bank of America of trying to make money off the backs of its customers. Imagine that. Imagine a business trying to make money from its customers. I mean, isn't that why the businesses exist? To make money from their customers? I mean, are they going to vilify all businesses for trying to make a profit off their customers? I mean, are businesses supposed to be nonprofit entities that just want to break even off their customers? I mean, the whole thing is nonsense. In fact, I got some sound, too, from Obama, who was on ABC News with George Stephanopoulos. He was being asked about this question and weighed in, kind of supporting the idea that no, the banks really don't have a right to make a profit. Or he didn't come right out and say that he wanted to ban it, but listen to how he responds. This is cut number 9.
Can you stop this service charge? Well, you can stop it because if you say to the banks, you don't have some inherent right just to get a certain amount of profit. If your customers are being mistreated, that you have to treat them fairly and transparently. And my hope is that you're going to see a bunch of the banks who say to themselves, you know what, this is actually not good business practice. Banks can make money, they can succeed the old-fashioned way, by earning it, by lending to small businesses, by lending to consumers, by making sure that we are building the economy together.
So, I mean, part of what he's saying is correct in that if the free market wants to render a verdict that these fees are excessive, then let the market do it. But the president is wrong. They do have a right to pursue a profit and make as much profit as the free market will allow them to make. Now, if they really are gouging their customers with a $5 a month service charge, if there really is a lot of excess profits there, then other banks will advertise the fact that they charge nothing for this service, and people will switch their accounts from Bank of America to these other banks. Now, if there aren't a bunch of other banks that are saying, hey, we'll give the service for free, it's because there isn't a lot of profit in giving away this service. In fact, more banks will probably follow suit and charge a fee. I'm sure that Bank of America made a decision that, hey, if somebody doesn't want to pay this $5 a month, we just assume that they transfer their account to a bank that doesn't want to charge them. Maybe there's a bank that has a different cost structure that can more economically afford these customers. Bank of America understands that. Now, maybe there's going to be some publicity backdrop against the bank, but they know all this stuff. This is a free, competitive market. They're not the only bank that offers their debit card. But, the problem is the government came in and said, hey, you can't recoup the cost of these debit cards through the merchants. Well, charging the merchants was simply an indirect way of charging their customers anyway, because they obviously would pass these fees along to their customers in the terms of the prices that they charge for their products. But if the bank says, look, you can't recoup your costs through this avenue, then they're going to look for another way of doing it. And they're going to feign outrage. The whole thing is ridiculous. But again, it's a way for politicians to try to get votes, to look like they're on our side by railing against the banks for charging us something. Meanwhile, they're charging a fortune for this protection. To have the government protect us from a $5 a month fee, how much money are they taking from the pockets of the typical Bank of America customer? Take a look at your payroll taxes, your FICA taxes, your income taxes. What would you rather have? That tax money back? And pay the $5 a month, or have the government save you from that $5, but at the cost of all the money you're paying in federal taxes. I got some more sound from Obama that I'm going to play again, where he is attacking the rich and claiming that the rich are not paying their fair share, and that what they have to do to help the economy is pay more taxes. Playing down the fact that just by running businesses, producing products, hiring people, that in and of itself helps the economy a lot more than paying taxes. In fact, if the rich pay more taxes, that means they have less wealth available to grow their businesses and to hire people. So the more money the rich pay in taxes, the worse the economy is going to be, not the better. That's the irony of it. Anyway, I want to get back to some of these Obama quotes from, one of them is from a fundraiser where President Obama was speaking in Dallas, Texas, trying to, claim that the rich need to pay more to give back to the country and do their fair share. Anyway, here this is at cut number 6.
We should pay our fair share in taxes to contribute to the nation that made our success possible. And you know what? I think most wealthy Americans would agree with that if it helps us grow the economy and it helps to bring down our deficits. Now, this notion that, folks are inherently selfish, that's just not true. But you got to ask them, right? People don't voluntarily pay taxes. But if you ask most wealthy folks here in Dallas or around the country, they'll tell you, you know what, I want to make sure that I'm doing my share for America to succeed.
See, they are doing their share. That's their point. Not only are they paying more than their fair share of taxes, but they're doing more of their fair share of the work that makes the economy grow. See, the president's got the cart before the horse. It's not the U.S. economy that enables businesses to thrive. It's thriving businesses that enable the U.S. economy to succeed. The source of all the tax revenue is the entrepreneurs and the businesses that go out there and grow the economy, that create the jobs, that provide the services, that produce the goods that we all consume. That is what drives the economy. And, in fact, the president even said at the beginning of that little clip, he said that people shouldn't object to paying more taxes if those extra taxes will grow the economy and reduce the deficit. The fact of the matter is they will do the reverse. By diverting money from private businesses to government, that undermines the economy. And there is no basis for saying that higher taxes will shrink the deficit. Higher taxes will simply be spent by the government, and the deficits will keep on growing. So based on the president's initial premise that higher taxes will grow the economy or reduce the deficit, they won't. They will do the reverse, which is another reason why businesses would oppose higher taxes. But here's really this is really the icing on the cake, where you have Ronald Reagan, Barack Obama trying to claim that Ronald Reagan would be in his corner, that Ronald Reagan would support his new millionaire tax. The Buffett rule is really a revisionist form of history. But here's how the president tries to twist this into trying to claim Ronald Reagan as a tax raiser. Here, cut number 7.
Now, some Republicans in Congress, they're already dusting off their old records. That's class warfare. Let me tell you something. 26 years ago, some of you may have seen this on television. Clips been circulating. 26 years ago, another president said that some of these tax loopholes, and I quote, made it possible for millionaires to pay nothing while a bus driver was paying 10% of his salary, and that's crazy. It's time we stopped it. That was 26 years ago. You know the name of that president? Ronald Reagan. So, was that class warfare?
Well, here's the big difference, right, between Reagan and Obama. Reagan was cutting taxes. Obama is raising taxes. Now, Reagan would have look, if Reagan thought he could have eliminated the income tax, he would have. But he had to start when he came to office. The top rate was 70%. He had a lot of work to do. The fact that there were points during the Reagan administration where the taxes were higher than they were today, it's not because Ronald Reagan wanted them there. Ronald Reagan did his best to lower the taxes as much as he could. In fact, Obama is actually really trying to claim that taxes were higher under Reagan than they are under Obama. Therefore, Reagan wanted them higher and would somehow object to the low rates of taxes that exist today. Here, he continues with this as cut number 8.
By the way, taxes are much lower now than they ever were when Ronald Reagan was president. I know a lot of folks have short memories, but I don't remember Republicans accusing Ronald Reagan of being a socialist or engaging in class warfare because he thought that everybody should do their fair share. And things have just gotten out of whack. I tell you what, if asking a billionaire to pay the same tax rate as a plumber or a teacher or a bus driver makes me a warrior for the middle class, I will wear that charge with honor. Because the only warfare I've seen is the battle waged against middle class Americans for a decade now. And
Yeah,
they're hurting and they need some help.
Yeah, well, what about the battle Barack Obama is waging with the truth? I mean, first of all, his statement that taxes were never lower under the Reagan presidency is just not true. I mean, Reagan, when he came to office, the top rate was 70%. When he left, the top rate was down at 28%. Today, the top rate is 35%, plus the Medicare tax now goes for 100% of your income. That was not the case when Reagan was president. It didn't. It phased out at a lower level. So the real effective top federal rate right now is 38%. And when Reagan left office, it was 28%. So the top rate is 35% higher today than it was when Ronald Reagan left office. Now, is it true that when Ronald Reagan first came to office, taxes were higher? Yes, but that was a problem that Reagan inherited, and it's a problem that he tried to solve. He wanted to reduce the marginal rate of taxes, and now Obama is trying to use Reagan to justify big increases in the same marginal rate. Hey, that dog won't hunt, Obama. Anyway, we will be right back. We got a lot more of the show coming up. This is Peter Schiff here at SchiffRadio.com.